Hello class, I'd like to continue with CSS layout. If you recall, the last tutorial that we looked at had multiple columns. So instead of just having division tags sort of repeating on down your page, has a column here on the left and a column on the right. Pretty simple design, but you can start to see the possibilities here, especially if you begin to add images and graphics from Photoshop or Fireworks. So what we did here, we created a division tag for a container that just kind of holds everything, and then we have a left and right division tag with those IDs. And then when we create the CSS rules for that, we're going to new CSS rule, and we're doing the IDs based on the name of what we applied for our division tag. So then when you check the CSS out, you'll see those hashtag and then the name of the IDs. So that allows you to put together a simple design for your page. So what we're doing now and for the next project, I want you to focus on designs from scratch, building these CSS layouts the way you want them with this box model before we move into the pre-built Dreamweaver layouts, which work pretty well also, but it's always better to start this way and kind of develop your own designs. This is still what I use to develop most of my basic websites, and then I do a lot of the visual appearance of the site really does start to come from Photoshop used with this CSS to start creating the design. So let's talk a little more about this design, and then let's bring in a full screen background from Photoshop. So first of all, if you did want to add any more division tags to this design, you could do that just simply by going to the code and adding those in. So let's add one at the top, and then just one that is a horizontal one across that's about the same length as the two columns. And then let's go ahead and add in a full screen background. So one thing you want to do is check and see kind of how wide you want this other division tag to be. So overall it's 600 wide, so let's go ahead and put in another division tag at the top for the header. So what I would do is go back to my HTML code, make sure you're inside your container, and then go ahead and put in division ID equals header. Okay, close that. Okay, and then let's go ahead and go back to the design, and let's add in the CSS rule, new CSS rule. Okay, and then we want to do ID, and then we want to do the hashtag, and then header. Whoops. Get rid of that. Okay, so that means that that's going to apply our CSS rule to that ID named header, the division tag. So let's click OK. And then let's go in here to the box, and we'll do the width of 600, and then let's do a height of 75 to start, and click apply. Okay, and then we could fill in a border. Let's just leave that blank for right now so that you can see that you've got a space for something in your design that you want. So what we'll do here is we'll add in, we'll just add in a simple full screen background to make the site look a little better, and then we'll add in a little image at the top. Now remember that for my demonstrations I'm making the size, the width smaller than what you should make them, just because it's hard to demonstrate a site that's 1,000 pixels wide on a smaller demonstration screen here. So that's why I'm using 600 so you can see the site kind of sitting in this window. So let me flip over to Photoshop now. Again, if you don't have Photoshop, you can get by with possibly something that's free out there on the web. If you do want like an online web free website to do some basic updates, drop me an email or something. Probably most of you have some kind of a graphics program, like an older version of Photoshop or the new one, or Fireworks, or like a PaintShop Pro. PaintShop Pro is a good one to start with if you're on a budget. Of course, we don't teach that because we do focus on the Adobe products, but PaintShop Pro is like $50, and it does probably 90% of what Photoshop does. Now what I have here is a full screen background. Now, I may post some tutorials on creating graphics like this, but basically what I did was just to drop a few gradients on here. So I did a blue background with some gradients and experimenting with the gradient tool. Like over here on the left hand side, you can check out some of these different tools. And then I applied a filter to it. So, you know, the focus of this class really not design in Photoshop, but I may put up a few tutorials for you. But this is just a pretty simple look, you know, that just experimenting in Photoshop, you can probably accomplish something like this just with trial and error, you know, spend half an hour just playing with it. What I'm going to do is turn this into a full screen background. So right now it's really not big enough. If I go to view actual pixels, you can see it's big, but it's still probably not quite big enough to take up the full screen. So what you want to do is optimize this in a way that it takes up a full browser. It doesn't repeat, which is going to be something really large because you want to compensate for large screens. And then you also want to optimize it in a way that it doesn't look too pixelated and amateur, so that you don't appear like you don't know what you're doing. So what I'll first do is go to my image size, and then I want to check the width. Now this is a pretty big image, obviously, but you're going to encounter people that would have browsers and monitors, you know, double this size, and then your image is going to repeat, obviously, unless you tell it not to, or it's going to cut off abruptly. So what I'll do here is make it larger. I'm going to go, like, let's just try something really large. Let's do 2000, and then the height of 1500 will be okay for the home page. Okay, and it's locked here, right here, so it resizes the width and the height at the same time. So let's click OK. So you can see that starts to get really large. Okay, now let's optimize this image and kind of see what we can come up with and what it's going to look like. Okay, so this is a full screen background image. So do a file, and let's do save for web. Okay, and let me drop this down a little bit so we can see it a little better. This is kind of the main part that we'll see in the design. So what we want to do is try out here. There's really no set rule for optimizing a full screen background. You guys should probably know by this time that JPEGs are more for photography, something that has a lot of gradients in it, and then GIF is going to be more for solid color. If you optimize gradients or photos as a GIF, you're going to get what's called dithering, and that's that pixelated effect. Basically looks like you don't know what you're doing if you get a lot of that. So you might start with JPEG and drop the quality down quite a bit to get something reasonably sized. So you can see that if I leave this at JPEG and I drop this quality down, I can get pretty low here, and the image still looks good. You know, you might see a little bit of data loss in here. You know, JPEGs take away data out of the image, and it's gonna sort of create a blurry look. It doesn't take away color or necessarily pixels like a GIF would. So that looks pretty decent. You know, that would still probably accomplish my goal here, and it's only 54K. You know, that tells you how long it would take to download on a dial-up connection. Large for a dial-up, but you need to look at your audience and see, you know, most people don't design for dial-up connections anymore. But there are still people using it, so you have to determine, you know, if you think a lot of your users would have dial-up. Most of what I do and most of what everybody does now is designed for like a DSL connection, so you really don't have to worry too much about that. You can change your size. I'll check your sizes, and if you have something really out of control, you know, like a 10 megabyte website or something, but for now, just, you know, learning this, you're probably not going to go over your size unless you're bringing in photos directly off a digital camera. That can cause you major problems with your site, too large with your files. Also, video files can be a problem. That little drop down will let you see how long it downloads on different connections. Okay, so we'll leave it at JPEG. Just for fun though, let me change it to GIF, and you can see, you know, what's going to happen here. You can see it obviously goes huge in file size. I have to remove colors to get this to optimize, and when I drop this down, you can see it's still 334K, and you can see the dithering starting in here. You might like that look. I don't like it for this particular image. It doesn't work at all, so I'd have to go to my JPEG. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and down here at the bottom, I'll click Save, and then I'm going to go ahead and save this into my website folder. It's called Blue Start. I might change it to Blue BG, and then click Save. Okay, back in Dreamweaver. Okay, and it shows up. Should show up automatically for you. If it doesn't show up, you can refresh, and then it should pop up. But it's really important. Obviously, what I did there, I saved it into the wrong folder. Pretty easy mistake to make. Just double check your folder. Just hold your mouse over your site name if you're confused about where you've saved it. So this tells me it's on the desktop in a folder called CSS Columns. Okay, now let me go to my Modify Page Properties, and I'm going to choose Background Image. I'm going to select Blue BG and click Open, and then click Apply. Okay, and then click OK. Alright, you can see that immediately gives your site a little bit of background, a little bit of depth. The colors don't work as well. What you want to do is go experiment with those. Anything that you put on top of this now, so if you do put your links on here, go into this particular division tag here. If you have trouble getting into actually clicking into your division tags, that's a pretty common problem. You may want to just click inside of there, put a little bit of text, come back here, and now you'd be able to put your links in there. Or you can put images in there also. Okay, now let's talk about styling these division tags a little bit better.